I don't imagine anyone will be coming here.
I'm more curious why you've come, Miss Whiteley. You came to speak with me, not you. There are kinder ways of saying the same thing. I will only ask you once to shut up, Watson. Now, pardon my severity, but can you leave? Our problems are liable to increase if you twirled about gossiping everything you were to hear.
Well, excuse you, I am not that kind of woman. And why not say the same to Watson?
He is my assistant. He should be here.
Well, I am not an assistant, but I had my deposit stolen. I'm as much a part of this as you.
確かにその通りだ。
Hi, Slater. Let me, check that. Why is your voice on? What? How did... Good grief, why? How did that even happen? There be ghosts in my menu. Alright. Nothing? Okay. Let's not have any more menu mysteries, shall we? That is true.
Point taken.
Alright, I don't hear him anymore, so I must be fixed. And if we're to start with the deposits, then I didn't steal them. Please believe me. The way in which he professed was heavy with pain.
We're well aware of that. No one is champing at the bit to accuse you.
You don't doubt me?
I have been your schoolmate for a full year. It takes little reasoning to know you aren't the sort who would resort to theft. I trust you. Rather than the perpetrator, your behavior mirrors that of a victim. You speak to me whilst your eyes move without rest. Your mind is as occupied as your behavior is nervous, and you dig your nails into your arm. Taking such observations into account, I'm led to believe you are hiding something and are fearful of what may happen if what is hidden comes to light. What other conclusion could I have reached?
Holmes' tongue raced to finish all he said in a single breath. Watson appeared used to this manner, but Slater and I were astounded.
With that done, I've now something to ask you. It is a very simple question. You placed the money in the bag, correct? Did the bag disappear with the money?
Silence. At one side was a detective with a need for answers to the grotesque, and at the other was a shrinking boy, speechless, terrified to speak the truth, even when he held those desired answers.
You remember when I said I trusted you, don't you? Then please answer me. I need only a yes or no.
Might he be talking about the bag that was stained with ink? Oh, that one. Holmes remained unblinking.
Yes. Wonderful. Thank you. Then, Watson, I have need of a favor. What is it?
Holmes leant closely to his assistant's ear and whispered.
This is some sort of prank, isn't it? You're better at this than I am, aren't you? I need you. Alright, I'll be right back.
Watson, apparently in agreement, turned heel and left. Where is he going?
I asked him to run an errand for me. He has a good nose for this sort of errand, one might say.
I was curious, but stumped for clues. No matter, I supposed. The answer would soon be upon me, even if I couldn't resist my head tilting inquisitively as I speculated the outcome.
Well, now that's sorted. Are you ready to talk?
Holmes's attention returned to Slater. Yet he was nearly frozen in place. His ill complexion grew 3 times paler, and his mouth twisted open and closed with no voice coming out. Yeah, I'm like, he saw something that made him scared. Whatever made him so distraught was behind Holmes. Yes, it had to be behind him. It left him so very afraid. This thing, this terrifying thing. What's wrong? You look...
Clave.
Who? Flat-footed, heavy steps sounded from behind me. I made to see who it was. Hi.
And just what brings you here, Slater?
I met eyes with a giant. The color of the tartan on his uniform was different to ours, indicating that he was in his final year of sixth form. Even then, his age didn't leave half the impression his massive physique did. Slater remained petrified.
I'm not doing anything, Clave. I hear you've lost all that money for your deposit. Did you know? That is interesting. We only learned of it ourselves. It was also my understanding that no one in our class was to utter a word of the incident to outsiders. Were you eavesdropping from outside our classroom door, perhaps?
The question was redundant, for a smirk reserved for one who knows all the answers spread his lips. Accurate. Clave, in turn, could either speak of unpleasantness or glare in silence. The tension that stiffened the very air would be the same.
I wasn't eavesdropping. Slater told me. Well then, I'm curious when you heard it from him, but we shall come around to that soon enough. You must know he's been in our company since lunch began.
Was he? But he wasn't here from the...
He was. From the very beginning, he watched us from a distance, waiting as he looked for a chance to approach and talk. That was what you were doing, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Holmes let out a tired groan.
Oh. Has it still not dawned on you? It is impossible for you to have conversed with Slater if you've only just come from the building. Now, speaking plainly, this is all circumstantial on my part, and I could be wrong. Could.
The massive boy's face reddened with anger the more the boy detective carried on.
You bloody... Found it, Holmes!
Watson! Watson had returned as quickly as he had left. He hurried to us, panting as though he ran with vigor the entire time he'd been away.
This is it, isn't it? It was in the incinerator.
I recognized the bag he was holding. There could be no mistaking it. It was the same one Slater had used for collecting the deposits. The fabric was more worn than when I last saw it in the classroom, but the reason why was no mystery to be solved upon knowing where Watson had retrieved it.
Your timing is excellent. Moving along, then.
Holmes fiercely locked eyes with Clave.
I've several questions to ask of you. First, when did you hear about this from Slater? You see, I suspect you didn't hear from him at all, and yet you know what happened down to the last detail.
The boy, who grew so deeply red in the face that it wasn't possible to appear more bruised, now twisted his eyebrows and scowled till he possessed a devilish expression, a face fit for one who could no longer adhere to reason. And his fists matched this anger, for they were clenched tightly enough for his nails to break skin and looked eager for violence.
Recall how we only learnt of Slater losing the money during lunch. If I were to guess exactly how you knew, I would say, "You think I'm some kind of fool?"
Clave raised his fist against Holmes. Watch out, Holmes! I made to dive to his rescue. A silly action, but Watson held me to my place. Thank you, Watson.
Not to worry. He'll handle this well.
But... And then the brute swung his fist. Dread haunted the forefront of my mind. He was simply too monstrous in size for Holmes to be the victor. There was no comparison. And still I stood, forced to do nothing by Watson, who watched the quarrel with easy breath. I couldn't bear to watch the oncoming strike. I was too afraid. Catches it calmly.
Would you look at that? This ink on your nails is familiar to me.
I dared a peek between fingers to see Holmes twisting Clave's arm. He was inspecting the boy's fingertips.
When Slater was collecting the deposits, it was observed that his bag was stained. The color was a dirty dark amber, unusual, as most would be content to use black ink. Even you favor black ink. I can see the residue along the cuff of your sleeve. Now, here is where the situation becomes quite curious. Your cuff is black, but your fingertips are stained with an amber hue. Tell me, why is that?
Clay's darkened face suddenly grew pale. Holmes's reasoning was impressive, and I would have been fast in my praises had I not been baffled by how a man of his build could hold someone so large in place without considerable effort.
See? I said it'd be alright, didn't I?
So you did. I now understand why Watson did nothing. The answer was in our hands. Clave received the deposits from Slater. But where is he hiding them? I pondered the information gathered thus far. He wouldn't walk around with the money in that same bag. What if he only intended to spend part of it for now and pocketed the rest elsewhere?
The bag itself was found in the incinerator, so when did you touch it before Watson brought it here? Whenever that was, we know for certain that you had to have been the one to throw it away. Piss off!
Clave succeeded in shaking off Holmes's hold and wasted no seconds in making another attempt to strike him. It was close, but Holmes was the more skilled of the two.
What? How did you suppose you could hit anyone at that speed? I didn't think God made idiots like you.
The detective needed only to step to the side and avoid the incoming fist. Ooh, yeah, there's my boy. He stepped backwards with some practiced adeptness to the situation and raised his fist, taking on a fighting stance similar to that of a boxer's.
Don't you mock me! Me? Mock you? What are you going on about?
Holmes briefly focused his attention towards us.
I'm only answering his challenge. The two of you are to act as witnesses. You see it, yes? This is self-defense.
Holmes ducked Clave's advance and took an able stance before retaliating.
Ha!
What followed was a sharp blow to the chest.
Ugh.
So immediately did Clave's breath leave him that it took all his instinct to keep himself balanced.
Huh!
Indeed, his will was strong. He righted himself and was ready to continue. Yet, in the process, his jacket fluttered briefly, but that was enough for me to spot what was in his breast pocket. Ah, so that's where it is!
We aren't done yet.
Holmes stepped forwards before his advantage was fully lost. He tightened his fist and gave Clave a second strike. And the third, a right crossed to the boy's side, was to be the last.
Go!
His opponent crashed to the ground and held along his ribcage with a pained grimace. I think I can get it! I had to chance it. Induced by bravery, I dived to Clave and reached into his breast pocket.
The hell is wrong with you? Emily!
I want you to explain why this was in your pocket. Hey! What I now held was a pure white bag with white lace stitched elegantly near its bottom. It was, quite naturally, the only one of its kind. All of us knew it upon sight. And to be certain, if my own bag was among his belongings, then further proofs were but supplemental. We had our man. When someone commits a theft, whether they're conscious of it or not, they become paranoid someone will steal back from them. It takes little work to rouse someone in that state to anger. No one is an exception. It is simply human nature. Upon your theft, you were left with two options. Keep the money on you, or tuck it away safely elsewhere. And with so much collected, you can't have thought to carry all the money around at once. Were you planning to use it little by little? Was my deposit today's petty cash? Oh. Objection! Your actions are evidence enough. You were so anxious the money would be taken away that you challenged Holmes with barely any provocation. Only a guilty mind with something to hide would have done it.
Fine work, Miss Whiteley.
Holmes spoke barely above a whisper. Thank you. Did I hear that right? Hi, Mr. Mackenzie.
What's this now?
Mr. Mackenzie.
I heard two students having a row in the courtyard, but upon my word, just what do you think you're doing?
I had been too distracted. As I turned to my left, to my right, behind me, I only now saw the number of onlookers who approached.
I shall listen to each of you in the staff room.
Yes, sir.
And you're in the upper six, correct? Clave, I believe. I must have you come with me.
We each gave our account of the event after being taken to the staff lounge. Blessedly, all of the money Clave had hidden away was found. Had we waited even a day, why, I could not fathom the extent a schoolyard bully should have liked to spend. What luck that we were so quick.
What an awful mess this was. I am relieved the deposits were found, and you did well to solve it. But there is no excuse for fighting on the school grounds, Mr. Holmes. Your actions have forcibly engaged Mr. Watson and Miss Whiteley in this as well.
I accept that the fault is wholly mine.
Oh, but it's not! It was by my own will that and Holmes didn't start the fight! Clave did! Holmes only acted in self-defense.
She's right, sir!
Very well. I understand. But see here, even if for good reason you violated the rules firmly set by this academy, had it been worse, this could have resulted in your suspension. I advise you to keep yourselves out of trouble, unless you rather like the idea of expulsion.
Yes, sir.
Miss Whiteley, this is only your first day, but I must extend this warning to you as well.
Yes, sir.
I expect you to behave like angels for the next few days. Mr. Watson, you are to go to Miss Sisley's supplementary lesson after this. Do you understand?
I understand.
As for Clave McCloud, he will be formally handled by the police. We were able to find all the money he had hidden. And lastly, Slater, you will be suspended for 3 days. I should also like for you to explain the truth before your class. You had them very worried, you know.
Yes, sir.
We retired from the lounge after we were dismissed. As we bid pleasant goodbyes to Slater, Watson did as instructed and went to attend his supplementary lesson. Holmes and I were left. Neither of us spoke a word, and an awkward air filled between us. By the way, I was surprised to see how skilled you were in that fight.
I'm not some barbarian. I only fought to expose the thief.
Oh, I hadn't meant to imply you were one for such things. Really, though. I didn't know there were people of such poor character like Clave in attendance. Or perhaps this was only my imagination, as Holmes appeared to have no interest in striking up a conversation. Did I make him angry? Perhaps I insulted him. Yet, judging by how defiant Clave was when cornered, this could not have been the first time this happened. There may be other students who were threatened the way Slater was. I puzzled this line of thought with keen interest. When I felt something heavy smack the back of my head. Ow!
Miss Whiteley. No!
Hi? Holmes appeared greatly alarmed by a sudden sight. I could see someone too. A figure stood directly behind him, and I wished so badly to shout, but I could not find my voice. Upon Holmes's gasp, I heard yet another dull smack. Well, I guess this is our first, kidnapped experience together. This'll make for some good bonding time. That was the last thing I recalled before blacking out. My, so many triple dots! We were out for a long time. My head pulsated. My body was weighted. I opened my eyes to be met with darkness. When I tried to sit up, slow as I was to move, the back of my head ached from even the smallest adjustment. What? Am I...
You finally woke up. Are you all right? How's your head?
It isn't so bad, I think. Is that you, Holmes?
You call me by name. You hear my voice. What do you think I'll say?
To hear a familiar voice in this unknown place gave me a sudden flush of comfort. I wouldn't mistake that derisive tone for anyone but you.
I shall kindly ask that you not speak ill of me, Madam Dunderhead.
Then I should say the same to you. But where are we? My eyes had not adjusted, so all I could do was feel. The cold made me shiver, whilst the smell of dust made me feel dirty.
Based on what's in here, we're inside a storage room in the Academy's basement. There are various brands of tableware, watering cans, buckets, and... well, give it a few minutes. You'll be able to see soon enough.
Are we really in a basement? Shouting as loudly as I could caused me to inhale a cloud of dust, sending me into a fit of dry coughs. Ugh! Bother all this dust! If only I could have some fresh air.
I'd like some as well, but there's no way to open the door. It appears we've been locked inside.
That can't be!
What reason would I have to lie? The one who attacked you was an upperclassman. Another one attacked me when I was distracted.
So they did, and after their attack they stashed us in here. But why?
They must be friends of Clave McCloud's.
Oh, God. I realized Pendleton had warned me of this. Several times he had warned me, and I spared him no ear. I should have sincerely listened to his every word. I was a fool. No, I was not. Only a fool would use this time to wallow in her mistakes, and I now knew the danger. The next step was to find a means of escape. It's awfully quiet. I suppose the academy is empty. In time, I could see better in the dark. I checked my surroundings, careful not to turn too sharply so as not to further agitate my headache. It's best we call for help.
Call? To whom? And from all the way down here?
Yes, it's better than doing nothing. Help! I shouted with all the strength my lungs granted. There was no response. What if there truly was no one?
There isn't a point in shouting if there's no one round to hear it. Better to conserve your energy and think of another strategy.
You know, Watson might still be here. He was kept for an extra lesson after school, so... it's a possibility, anyway.
That skylight is the only other exit besides the entrance, and I can't imagine anyone would hear us through that.
Well, I guess the moon is out. He's probably not still here. Oh. He was right. The skylight was high, and through what was once darkened became illumined just slightly by a curious moon. It was not much. To cry upwards with a sliver of hope was inefficient. I plopped myself on the floor helplessly, causing more dust to flutter in the air. Holmes cleared his throat before looking to me.
I rather hope this isn't too stern, but would you keep quiet for a while? I have some things I'd like to think about.
With a pout to his lips, he turned away and sternly crossed his arms to contemplate our circumstances. Why is Holmes always so cold to me? Is he still angry with what I said?
What did I just say?
I know, but, I was wondering if you're angry with me because I suggested you fought with Clave.
Yes, I'm angry. I'm angry at myself for never noticing such evil stood in plain sight of my vision. I've been here for a year, and I never noticed. I'm ashamed of myself.
He then stared at nothing with a depressed intensity. My heart was moved. Holmes. But I find you to be magnificent. And Slater chose to confide in you, didn't he? He could have gone to a teacher. Instead, he came to you. That must mean he thinks highly of you. Trusts you.
Then I hope his trust wasn't misplaced.
Holmes. With inapt timing, my stomach rumbled. Why do I relate to this girl so much? Oops! You heard that, didn't you? Seems I'm feeling peckish.
You and your stomach have absolutely no sense of timing.
Ah, but hold that thought. I have a biscuit we can eat. I procured the still wrapped biscuit from my pocket. It was my favorite brand. Would you like to share a biscuit with me? Man, Holmes, you better appreciate this girl loves her food and she's willing to share with you. Let's split it in half, shall we?
No need. Besides, it's nearly crumbled. I couldn't eat such a thing.
Nonsense. Think of it as it already being split for us.
I really would prefer if you had the entire thing. It could be some time before we get out of here.
Well, how about this? We attract birds with the biscuit crumbs and...
Are you a lunatic? Unless they're well-trained carrier pigeons, they'll fly off once they're full. And today is the 1st of September. Saturday.
Oh, great. So we're stuck here for the weekend, too? Sheesh.
No one attends class on Sunday. There won't be a soul on campus till Monday at the earliest.
That's terrible! Big Ben's chime informed us that it must have been 9 o'clock at night. Is it that late already? Pendleton must be in tears with worry.
Pendleton?
He's my butler. My mother and father both passed away when I was small, so he's taken care of me instead. I know how he worries. He said he would pick me up at 3 o'clock.
Then he must be. I wonder if Watson is as worried for me.
I should think so with all that's happened today. Still, it is Watson, so I can't help but suppose he might think something else.
Like what?
Oh, you know. The two of them went traipsing off together, so I should be a good mate and let them alone.
Miss Whiteley, don't be so vulgar.
He protested. Just what I needed. Are you going to stuff breadcrumbs in his mouth? Go get him, girl. Tricked you! I crammed a biscuit crumb into his open mouth before he could stop me. I love Emily. Oh! No spitting it out. We don't have water, and I know it's a bit dry, but don't be tempted. This is better than eating nothing at all. Soon after, I followed suit by eating my half. That sweet vanilla flavor was medicine in this time of distress.
You are, without a doubt.
But it's got a lovely taste, doesn't it? I went to thoughtlessly run a finger through my hair, only to realize how tangled it was. My hair must look more like a bird's nest right now. I was one to carry a hand glass, so I took it out to inspect myself. Oh my goodness, use the moon's light to send out Morse code or something. Please.
Miss Whiteley, have you had that the whole time?
I always carry it with me. It belonged to my mother.
Lend it to me.
Now?
This is our signal. We can let someone know we're trapped in here.
Yes, that's my boy. Holmes carefully positioned himself beneath the skylight. He began to periodically shift the mirror, reflecting the modest moonlight back to the outside. Is that?
I'm sending an emergency signal. If anyone is near to us, they will see it.
Aha! Morse code, is it?
Indeed. They likely won't know what I'm saying, but they'll see the flickering.
You're right. Give it to me. I know how to do it. Holmes fleetingly looked to me before returning his concentration to the window.
You should rest for now. I'll keep at it. I'll wake you in a bit once I'm tired, and then we can switch.
Well, aren't you a sweetheart? Aww, she got him!
Not quite. You don't seem the type to put much effort into ensuring an emergency signal is accurate. No one would even understand what you were trying to do.
This is what I meant by your derisive tone.
Yes, yes. Just get some proper rest.
So I shall. Thank you. I waited as this motion continued. He was patient in sending the signal, tilting the mirror with precision, waiting, tilting. How funny that it was not crying, not banging against the door, and not birds lured with crumbs, but the simple reflection of light that would be our savior. Tilting, waiting, tilting, waiting. Again and again, with measured precision, he continued. He did this all with the same rigid, perfect motion. Perhaps I was more tired than previously thought. As I watched this repetition in silence, my eyelids slowly drooped till I fell into a restful sleep.